What is up, my friends? My name is Gerry Trevino, and today we're going to be going over my Line 6 Helix Snapshots. Before we continue on, a quick word about snapshots for those of you that don't know what they are. Usually when you use multi-effects pedal boards, there's a tiny audio gap when switching between presets. This is because of the level of dynamic model allocation and routing complexity that has to happen when switching between presets. I mean, it's fast, but it's just not fast enough. With snapshots, however, you're able to preload all of the Helix's DSP processing power and use it to your advantage, having tonal control from within the same preset and change everything instantly and seamlessly. What does this mean for you exactly? Well, it allows for no audio gaps when switching between amps and effects, and it also allows for delay and reverb tails to spill over seamlessly when switching tones, which is super sweet. Now, you have the ability to change just about any parameter within the Helix using snapshots, so there are virtually an infinite amount of ways that they can be utilized. But for today's video, I thought it'd be fun to look at how I go about using snapshots. Think of this as a sort of follow to my Helix presets video that I uploaded a little while ago. These are all going to be centered around the songs off of my EP, Great Unknown, and they will be available for download over on my custom page. All I ask is that maybe you check out the EP and hopefully subscribe. So with that being said, let's jump into HX Edit and see what's going on. All right, so we're in HX Edit. I'm just going to go through the preset that I used for the example earlier. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty about like settings and all that jazz. That was more heavily discussed in my Helix presets video, so if you want like a more in-depth look at the presets, then check out that video. But I'm just going to go through pretty much from the input to the output, where I put where, how I'm using the snapshots to turn certain things on and off, and so on and so forth. So this preset is called Serenity. This is the preset I use for my song Serenity. So the way that I kind of lay out everything out in my set is that I have a different preset for every song. Since in reality, most of the presets are kind of built to be pretty much the same thing, where only reverb and delay time changes between the presets. But I don't know, sometimes one calls for, you know, an octaver and something calls out for a different app model. So, and plus for me, it's easier to organize it that way to keep it all separate like that. So, okay. So like I said, we're just going to go on from the beginning to the end. So in my input block, I do have an input gate. But I only use it for the cleans and my leads. I use a different gate for the actual rhythm chug stuff. And as you can see, I do have some snapshot parameters turned on and off here. Moving on, I have this blue comp compressor that's being used for the clean tones and the lead tones and things like that. After that, I have a tube screamer. That I'm using for the rhythm tones and the lead tones. This is that other noise gate that I was telling you guys about. This is really only for the rhythm patch. I get a lot of questions about, or comments rather, why I use a noise gate after the distortion rather than the other way around. To me, it just kind of cleans up better that way, and it's tighter. You don't get that like weird, like when you're gating and then you stop and you get that like, you know what I'm talking about? It's like, I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, and then after that, I have the 2 amp models that I use for my cleans and my leads and distortions and stuff. So for the cleans, I'm using this archetype clean amp model. And then after that, I'm using the lead for both, the archetype lead amp model for both my rhythm and my lead sound. And then to save on a DSP processing power, I'm jumping down to path 2A down here. And then after that comes the delay that I use. And then I have 2 separate reverbs. I use the Ganymede for the nice, pretty clean stuff. And then I used just the stock cave reverb for my leads and stuff, since it's not as pretty sounding. The reason I do that is that when you're using like a really high saturated lead sound and you add a pretty clean reverb after the fact, all of that weird, you know, high end sizzle, top end weird nonsense kind of, for me anyway, gets more accentuated when you use like a prettier reverb. So this one, I have it intentionally a little more dark, but yeah. And also I have them in mono. And the reason that I do that is because I'm using the send block here to send to a power amp to power a cab. So if you follow my signal path, I have all my, you know, my effects in the beginning, the amps, and then the effects after that. So I'm kind of treating it as like the power amp section of an amp, the effects loop rather. This is an easy way for me to make sure that the feed that I give to front of house gets all of my effects, but then I can also tap off of a send and feed it to a power amp, to an actual cab on stage, and that cab also gets the effects and stuff. So I know there's a big debate on that, whether to use it before or after the cabs. In my experience, since I'm not playing huge cathedrals and sold out stadiums, I don't think anybody's going to notice. And when I'm in the middle of playing, that's like not what I'm thinking about. So that's what works for me. So then after this send, I have my little dual cab combo. I'm using the XXL V30 with 2 different microphones. And then after that, one thing that kind of differs from the preset video that I was talking about earlier is that I do have a little bit of EQ going on to just round out the preset. So to kind of show you what's going on, I have a high/low shelf over here, and I'm boosting a high shelf right around 8K just to give it a little more brightness. So just to kind of give you an idea what that sounds like, here's kind of like the heavy sound, and here it is with the EQ turned off. So yeah, that's just adding just overall just really nice brightness to it. And then the last EQ block that I have down here, I'm pulling out a little bit of 250. These XXL V30 cabs have like a ton of low end to them, especially when you're using the 4038 ribbon microphone. So this is just kind of pulling out kind of just that unwanted, like, you know, woofiness or whatever. So that cleans it up a little bit too, and I'll show you what that sounds like before and after. So here it is off. And there it is on. So that's pretty much my signal path. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go through each of the snapshots that I use for all of the songs and show you what's going on with the effects and which ones I have turned on and turned off and things like that. So normally I try to really keep it as simple as possible with snapshots. I usually always have a clean tone, a rhythm tone, and a lead tone, and then one extra special function depending on the song. Sometimes I need like an octave or a harmonizer or whatever it calls for. So what I'm going to do now is just show you what I have going on. So this is my clean sound for Serenity, and here's kind of what that sounds like. Okay, cool. So for that particular preset, I have just a little tiny bit of the noise gate on. That's just for in between when I'm not playing and stuff, because I am using the split position in my guitar, and sometimes I go just straight single coil position. It can get just a tiny bit noisy. That's just to clean it up. It's not enough to like suck out the playing, but it's just there to keep it quiet. And then after that, I have the blue comp compressor on, and then that's going straight into the amp. And then after that, I'm hitting this delay, and then you can see some of the parameters that I'm changing from using a clean tone and a lead tone. So I'll just switch to the lead tone very quickly, and as you can see that some of the parameters changed. And then I'm going to go back to the clean tone. So then after that, that feeds into a reverb, the send block that would hit the theoretical power amp and cab that I have on stage right now, the cabs, and then finally the EQ. The EQ I have turned on for pretty much everything. That never turns off. So, okay, so then the next sound would be my rhythm sound. Okay, so let's see what's going on with the rhythm sound. So if I go back to my input block, I have the input gate turned off this time. Following that, that goes straight into the tube screamer. So as you can see, the level sometimes changes between that and my lead tone. I use pretty much the same settings, just a little less level going into the lead tone, but I have it maxed out for my rhythm tone. And after that, it goes into that noise gate that I mentioned a little earlier. And then that feeds into the archetype lead amp model. Those are the settings. As you can see, the bass will change, the presence will change, the channel volume will change, and that's pretty much it. Dropping down to the second lane, no effects for rhythm tones because you want it as tight as possible. And then that hits the send block, into the cabs, and then finally the EQ. So that is my rhythm sound. Okay, so lead tone. For this one, let's go back to the input block. As you can see, I do have it turned on. I did change the decay for the lead tone, that versus the clean tone. So as you can see, yeah, it's much more generous for the clean tone. And again, it's just so to kind of cut down on the hiss. I don't want it to be, you know, sucking out the life out of the guitar like I'm in the middle of a lead run and then it just like, it drops. So that's what snapshots let you do. Oh, and in case you're wondering, since I'm not switching between like here, I'm using the Helix control on the floor. So that's how I'm switching everything right now. Moving on, I'm using the same compressor going into that tube screamer that I mentioned earlier. That's hitting the archetype lead amp model. Here are the settings. Here's what changes between that and my rhythm tone. Dropping down to path 2A. Here is my delay settings. Here is what it looks like versus the clean settings. And then that's not hitting this Ganymede reverb, but it's hitting the cave. After the cave reverb, hits the send, hits my power amp on stage, and then it hits my cabs, and then finally the EQ. And just to give you an idea of what that sounds like. So that's pretty cool, and yeah, that's pretty much how most of my presets and snapshots go. So now I'm just going to show you maybe kind of the minor differences that go on between, you know, Serenity, that song, and all the other songs, and then yeah, that'll pretty much be it. So as you can see in Cry Havoc, I pretty much have the same presets going on. I have this little delay preset. There's a run in like the bridge section of the song where it switches between like a heavy rhythm sound and then kind of like a quick lead run. So I'll switch. All it is just the rhythm sound with a little bit of delay, and then that's it. And I just switch between the two. So this is pretty much the exact same way that I utilized snapshots in the previous preset. If we go to Emotep, if you notice, the one thing that changes is this delay block in the beginning. I'm using that delay block in the beginning to get the sound of like the bridge section of that song. So here's what that kind of sounds like. And then the only other different preset to this guy is this ambient tone. This is kind of like the intro of the song. Cool, jumping into Bliss. Again, I got that delay block in the beginning. That's more for the intro, the kind of fingerstyle type part. And then finally, Second Chance. It all pretty much kind of looks similar. Really, the only thing that changes between my presets is if you go to the delay block and check out the time, it's matched to the tempo of the song. So usually it's a quarter note thing, sometimes it's a half note thing, but I pretty much just put in the value and then it just matches the song. So I don't have to think about it. So again, like I said, the beauty of it is if I go to something like, you know, Serenity with that big, beautiful clean tone, and then I switch to another preset, the delay and reverb tails still go. It doesn't just like stop. So. There, and then I switch to a rhythm tone and it's still delays. So as you're playing, there are no audio gaps, there are no distractions. It's very seamless and it kind of just gives me peace of mind. So there you go. With that being said, those are my Line 6 Helix snapshots. Thank you for watching this video. All download links, including where you can check out my EP, are in the description. What kind of Line 6 videos would you like to see? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to keep up to date with me, you can check me out on social media. I tend to post on there pretty regularly. And for more guitar videos like this one, you can head over to my channel, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.